But of course, in the last few weeks, there have been other things that are unfortunately uniting us in another struggle. And we would be remiss if we talked around it or avoided it. And so today we're going right through it. We appreciate those of you who have joined us today. And we absolutely invite you to drop your comments, your questions, anything that you would like to share in our chat. We'll be monitoring the chat as well as sharing during the discussion today. So thank you guys for being here again. We're Mike and Wendy, we're Catalyst, and today we are going in.
Yeah. So before we go in, there's actually something I would love to share with you all, and we've used it in a number of contexts. However, I think that I don't know. Today it just feels really appropriate. So hold tight 1 second. I'm gonna share this screen again. I'm gonna mute because there'll be a little bit of noise as we kind of transfer over to a slightly different screen and a different platform here. But give me just 1 second, and we're gonna do that.
Hey, Mr. Perry.
Go ahead. Yes.
Is it possible to maybe mute everybody so that any interference from anybody is eliminated?
Your wish is my command in about 2 seconds.
Aha. I also wish to win the lottery today.
Yeah, can't do that one. Great to see you, Stan.
All right, here we go. Are y'all getting audio? No audio. Okay. I hate that video thing does that. All right. All right. Well, we'll work that out here on the side. We won't force you to endure the technical fix on that. But today the topic is it's about going through, right? We actually, a lot of times when difficult things come, and those are things that happen on low levels, or things that are really major, like what we're going through right now. People get uncomfortable about going there. And what is happening is that you find that now, these days, if you've noticed, people are speaking on things that we have considered, and we've even said are taboo. You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about race, right? You know, there's all these untouched areas. And what we're finding is that the areas that we don't touch, people actually are having experiences. People actually are living lives that are being impacted in all kinds of ways that we don't want to touch. So even with that, there's hope, right? And so what I'd like to do for a few minutes is I want to hear from you for a second. And I want to hear a little bit about what you've seen recently that gives you hope. You should have the ability to unmute yourselves. So I want you to unmute yourself. Just jump in. And I want to know what you've seen or heard that maybe gives you hope.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
Real quick, my name is Stanley Crump. I'm tuning into this call from Howard County, Maryland. And I, among other things, run own a couple of large karate schools here in the area, probably about 400 students total. And what has given me hope, literally in the past 36 hours, there have been some protests and some vigils and things in DC, as you know, and Baltimore, as you know, and in even here in Howard County, thousands and thousands of strong here at the Columbia Mall, Mike. And what has given me hope is to receive unsolicited dozens and dozens and dozens of text pictures and words of encouragement and words of praise for my interaction in the community, but from such a wide array of students, genders, genders to ethnicities. I mean, I had an 8-year-old Indian girl text me about 4 or 5 pictures of herself and her friends at one of the vigils. I've had white females, Spanish, you name it, Asian people texting me from these different protests and vigils. And what gives me hope is to see that, as Obama president suggested the other day, not to bring politics into it. It's good to see people of all kinds, shapes, sizes, colors, and preferences out there, and even ages, pulling for dis-ease and unrest that's out there. Unsolicited. Didn't say send me some pictures if you're in support of something or not, but just coming my way was giving me hope that we as a people arguably bigger problems.
I can go next if you'd like.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah. Thanks,
thanks for starting that off, Stanley. It's, sometimes people sit back and wait for that first person to jump in, and then it makes it easier for somebody to follow. So thank you for having the courage to speak up first. And so that gives me hope. But I'm Denise Vickers. I'm the general manager of a television station in Augusta, Georgia. My background is in news, but I've moved up into the GM office. And so as things have been unfolding, since COVID-19 and then through the last few months, I've been, keenly watching not only our coverage, but coverage all around, on all different platforms, on this and on social media and, and things like that. And a couple of 3 things that have caught my attention that have given me hope. And one is that here in Augusta, Georgia, there have been several days of protests recently, 4 days, I believe, maybe a 5th day. I've started to lose count. And mercifully, everything has been peaceful and productive here in Augusta, Georgia, and that has made me immensely proud to be a new member of this community. I've only lived here a year and a half. Also on a story, and you'll forgive me, I can't remember what community it came from. I saw a video of a protest where the sheriff, who was a white sheriff, walked side by side with the folks marching and protesting. And I distinctly recall the other day when I saw that, I pushed pause on the DVR and said to my husband that seemed to me, my observation, which is all it is, and it's just an opinion, that was a sheriff who was in tune and accessible and approachable. And it gave me hope. And then the third thing I saw was this morning, and Maya Angelou has a quote, and I'll butcher it, but the sentiment of it is something along the lines of, people forget what you did, people forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so I'm forgetting the details of where in these communities I saw these images from, but this morning I saw another piece of video where at a protest where people of all creeds and colors and genders were together dancing to the Cupid's Shuffle, and there were law enforcement folks in there too, and of all colors, and it was beautiful to see them just dancing and having fun. So I'll stop there, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. I appreciate you sharing that, I really do. Who else? Okay, yeah, so, all right, so we crossed my 5-second threshold. But
Uh-oh, I heard somebody.
who said what? You heard somebody?
Mhm.
That's me. I'll
Hey,
pop
Dr.
in.
Perry,
Oh, good. You go first.
go ahead. I'm patient.
Oh,
Okay,
the
well, again,
deaf.
good morning there, Dr. Perry.
Morning.
Still thinking about our Harvard class
Yes,
that
sir.
we had last year. That was a very rewarding experience when you start talking about leadership. But, you know, one of the takeaways I had from that class had to do with the leadership in having the right skill sets in complex situations. One of the things I think we all should do is kind of really look at a basic leadership model. And when folks don't fit up to that particular model, then, you know, we should speak out. I know there's a lot that's been going on, you know, the last week or more. But one of the things I always think about, here's kind of an answer before I get to my other comments.
No, in the aid, I don't want to. I don't want you to like take the thunder and steal it from. There's going to be a point. I don't want answers right now. I want what gives you hope. So, you know, I love you, man.
Here's kind of my take. If you take a look at being a Christian leader, you know, I always think about Jesus Christ. You know, Jesus Christ in every situation always offered an olive branch, never taking a heavy hand to anything. And I think, you know, if you look at Christian leadership, there's a basic foundation there about being moral, speaking up when folks are not being fair. I mean, it's very simplistic to me, but I know all situations don't have simplistic answers. But if we take a look at it, really, a lot of clarity. It's really all about fairness. When fairness is not there, I think you're always going to have issues. Another issue that I think
Hey,
take a serious
hey.
look.
No, I don't mean to interrupt you. Well, actually, I kind of do, but I want to know one question, one answer rather. You ready?
Go.
What gives you hope, sir?
What gives me hope
Yeah.
is the human spirit, and I think in this
Perfect.
country we have a lot of folks that believe in doing what's right.
Yes,
And if
sir.
you look at a lot of the young folks, they're really talking about being fair, and that's my hope. And I'll pass on the rest of my
No,
comment.
don't pass on the rest because I have a place for the rest actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we coming back to you. Don't worry. Thanks, Abe.
Well, thank you there, Dr. Perry.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Liz?
There we go. Sorry, I have to mute because there's background noise here. I'm Liz Kleba. My company is Closet Play Image. I'm an image, wardrobe, and color consultant living and working here in the CSRA and virtually. I don't live virtually. I work virtually. Sorry. Anyway, I think the one thing that's really given me hope is just seeing so many of us out there acknowledging privilege. And to me, that's I'm hoping that that's just the beginning of a conversation and not just a my bad and walking away from it. So I'm just really thankful to see so many people out there just saying it. Say, yep, I've been fortunate and I've been living easy, and it's due to nothing else than an accident of birth. So I'm thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Thank you. And yeah, what's up?
Go ahead.
You saw somebody?
Yes, Waylon. Wait, go ahead.
Oh no, please. Waylon, please.
Am I up?
Yes.
You are.
You know, where I have hope is I'm the sales manager at WFXG Fox 54. You know, I'm going to butcher another saying, but it's one that I like. I think Ben Franklin, out of adversity comes opportunity. And, you know, there's a lot of adversity that people are going through right now. And I think that it does shine a light on a lot of people's struggles and things that are holding them back. And hopefully some of those barriers will be removed out of all of this, and that people have more access to opportunities. So that's where I see hope in all of this.
Yeah, thank you, Waylon. Thank you very much. And that adversity, you know, have Abe, he's a veteran. Wendy and I certainly are veterans. Stan, by the way, is like a multiple time world champion, karate master, like, I don't know how many degree black belts there are, like 101 or something, like it's crazy. Anyway, but there's something about adversity, and the reason I bring those folks up, Dexter Pagans, I say he's on as well. When people go through something together that's hard, that they cannot solve individually, that they have to come together to solve, there's something remarkable that happens in that. Trust and relationship is built. There's a covenant that forms between people when they go through something together. And so I did find out what the technical issue was with the video. The volume was all the way down. So but I think that speaks to, going through adversity together. It kind of speaks. This video does, and many of you are familiar with it. You already saw a preview, so I kind of messed the surprise up, but whatever. All right, so we'll give it another shot.
Yeah, collective struggle.
Anybody know what this place is? This is Gettysburg. This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg. 50,000 men died right here on this field, fighting the same fight that we're still fighting amongst ourselves today. This green field right here, painted red, bubbling with the blood of young boys, smoke, and hot lead going right through their bodies. Listen to their souls, man. I killed my brother with malice in my heart, hatred, destroyed my family. You listen. You take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed. Just like they were. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll learn to play this game like men. Let me ask you something, Mr. Campbell. What kind of power you got?
Oh, man, you know I got some soul power.
What kind of power you got?
What kind of question is that? I got soul power.
Yes, you do.
Right on, let me ask you something, Mr. Burkett.
Yes.
How strong are you?
I'm too strong.
What? How strong?
I'm too strong.
How strong?
Too strong.
Right on.
I want a victory.
I want a victory.
I want a victory.
I want a victory.
You want a victory?
That always just kind of gets me ready to like go out and take the field. It's inspiring. It's one of the for me, one of the most inspiring movies that I've seen. A lot of us use football as a metaphor for life. There are just so many lessons there about teamwork, courage, and discipline. And so whenever we show that, I'm like, yeah, I want to be in the huddle. I'm ready to get in. I wanted to share with all of you something that gave me hope this morning. About 20 minutes ago, our daughter actually posted a video to Facebook and probably Instagram, and she's going on for about 15 or 20 minutes, really just expressing herself and her emotions and thoughts around what's happening, sharing actually her life of privilege. And it is a refreshing perspective. And so it touched us in a way that I thought I would share with you, because ultimately it gave me hope. because our young people are the future, and what's happening with them really dictates what happens with us as we go forward. So again, wanted to share that with you, and thank you all for being here. How do you feel about that movie? How does it impact you?
You said about the movie? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Well, both of y'all know that you've been in the military before. So that's immediately what I thought the scene was actually building towards until I saw Denzel there. I'm just reminded about recent conversations I've had with my daughter and Mike, you know, what she just completed and where she's at now, and what she sees from her eyes is it's one thing when you have a group of people that, you know, when it's social time and when it's downtime, people are polarized and aren't on the same opinion, and some don't even like each other and don't mind letting you know they don't like you. But when it's time to complete the mission, you are one strong chain, and that's not even the issue. Those aren't the issues. So, you know, just the whole idea, as you said before, coming together and challenge means we don't have to like each other or care that we don't like each other, but we can respect each other and move together as a team to complete what we got to complete.
Yeah, absolutely. And then oftentimes when we talked about this yesterday on another call, talking about initially it's about the contract. We agreed to come together to accomplish a certain thing. And somehow along the way, things can often change in terms of the depth of what is formed after you come together for that contractual thing and turns into something else. Yeah. Anybody else have any impressions on what you just saw?
Can you hear me, Dr. Fair?
I can, Barry.
Okay. I'm generally kind of quiet. I think the thing that resonated with me is I've seen the movie several times, and I think the process that it took to get to that point, it wasn't the prettiest process. You know, each person had to really self-examine themselves and really deal with their own biases and issues that they had. And recently, what gave me hope, and I didn't answer the first part, but I was I'm in a men's group, and we were on a call, and we're mixed, white and black, and some of the white members, I mean, we're cool, you know, we're close, but there was more of a sincerity to listen and to self-examine. And they were saying, you know what, I really started searching in my heart what could possibly be in my heart, because you know, racism isn't, one of the guys said, you know, you're not born like that, but what are things in my own life that could have caused me to think a certain way?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a beautiful, I thought it was a beautiful scene. And it was more for me for an affirmation part to say, wow, just for you going through that process and your willingness. And even in learning some things about my story, because I shared a few things. So it wasn't seen as, you know, you're just being a victim just to be a victim. It was more like, wow, you really had to endure this. Because I was saying, you know, you go to school, you get an education, you do everything to not look like a target or to not be threatening. And just things happen anyway.
Yeah.
So there was for me, seeing the self-examination, the desire to look at themselves and myself as well. And also, what can we do to move forward? So, and when I saw that movie, I saw the end result of hard work, of digging in, of really looking at things, which is something that as we move forward, this is allowing us to, you know, to really look and to see and face things. And I believe that just like they did in that video clip, we can be in the same place. I mean, it started with us just coming on the Zoom call, and even talking about it is already a step into the right direction.
Yeah. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate that. Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff there. I think this week we didn't, our agenda this week, it looked totally different in terms of what we plan to do, everything we plan to discuss. everything that we plan to write even, it's just different. And actually, honestly, we didn't really turn the corner until Monday. It didn't all really solidify in terms of what this week was going to look like until Monday, because, you know, and I'll give you kind of the downside, and I'll give you the upside. And if you read any of my stuff on LinkedIn, you can find a detailed account of Monday there, relatively speaking. But just to say that my daughter, my youngest daughter, Morgan, and I were I don't know, what's the word? I was going to say accosted. We weren't accosted. We were both, say, subject to a bit of hate on Monday, and we weren't together. She's several hours away from here right now, and so I was on a video call on a training, and she was walking on a little private area on a beach, and both of us received a bit more than we expected on that day. What struck me, because for me, you know, that's kind of par for the course, even though the context of it this time was really strange. It was on a Zoom, it was on a state agency training session, 20-some people, all in the same agency. They've been there together for a good while now. I mean, a solidified team, and one person just completely came out of the bag, unprovoked. And so that was strange. And my daughter, she was walking with some friends on the beach, and someone approached her. They drove up on them and basically let her know that her kind was not welcome there. So the problematic part about that is that my daughter is kind of going through that. We're having this shared experience in 2020, an experience that, you know, I would expect my mom and my dad to have back in the mid 60s. And so, but to share that with your daughter, that's not one thing I want to share with her. I don't want her to have to deal with that, but that's what it is. And so she called, and we dealt with that. But what gives me hope, though, is there's a lot of things we're doing here in the Augusta area, excuse me, that we've been doing for a couple of years, actually. And so we brought together, we started doing, because I've always done men's ministry. Mm-hmm. And it's clear that where the divisions lie here, there's racial division, there's church denomination, what county you live in, what schools you go to. There's all these lines of division. And as a Christian, the idea was that, well, if we all agree on the same thing, then we're going to elevate this conversation above all those things that divide us, because we should be able to agree on the things that the Bible tells us. And so we bring these people together from I think there were over 60 churches represented. It is the most, to date, I believe, we've done this a couple of times, but it's the most diverse crowd you will see in the Augusta area, period, hands down. A few hundred folks over at the Croc Center, an event center we have here. That gives me hope. And one of the people said, coming out of that, in the feedback we got, it was, he said, basically, it was surprising, shocking to him that you could bring, he said, quote unquote, that you can bring all the races here and have this type of an outcome, this type of it. And so that struck me. I'm like, wow, you know, we have bought into this idea that separation that's just kind of par for the course, and that's the way it's supposed to be, when I don't believe that's the way it is. And so so we've repeated that, and we're using that to even, you know, talk about solutions now and how we begin to heal the community and the country. So that gives me hope. All right. But how do you have those conversations? Because a lot of people, the reason those events don't happen all over the place all the time is because people are afraid to wade into that conversation, and many others. And that's really what today is about, to some degree. And with these type things, you know, I always tell people, you're going to leave just a little bit. You're going to leave unsatiated. You're going to leave unsatisfied, because it's an hour or less. And so you can't solve the world in an hour. Well, we could if everybody decided to, but we know everybody will not. So what can we do in this short amount of time to help you leave with something that you can actually use? And so one of the most effective ways to do that is to use the wisdom that already exists, that is here. And that's what we're going to do. and this is going to be rapid fire here. What we're going to do, we're going to use a breakout room function. I'm probably going to go ahead and just make it random. We'll see what happens, see who you land with.
Yeah.
But we're going to take about just 5 minutes for you all to tackle 2 questions. All right, I'm going to bring you back to this screen here. And we're going to have you all first take a look. What should you say? We've gotten a lot of calls this week.
A lot of calls.
A lot of calls. And we welcome those.
Yes. Yes.
But what should we say? Should we say anything? Should we pull our team together? Should we write? Should we put out an article, et cetera? You know, all these corporations are putting out statements. Are they effective? Are they necessary? So the first question really is, well, what should you say, if anything? And so what I want to do is I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. I'm probably they'll be like, I don't know, 3 or 4 per. And I just want to know how you determine, I want you to just kind of talk for about 5 minutes about how you determine if you should say anything. Are there any questions on that?
Anything in relation to what?
In relation to, specifically, it's around what's happening in the country right now, around this race discussion that we're having. So that's kind of our backdrop, but the ideas that you're talking about could apply to anything that is difficult to tackle. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? All right, so let me see. I'm just gonna check these rooms real quick to see who's where. You know what? That works.
No, breakout room 2 needs to be adjusted. So
okay.
We appreciate you guys really being able to have this conversation today. And we know that even in talking about this or whatever is introduced, that it may strike emotions that maybe you haven't tapped into or that you are becoming familiar with within the past week and even currently today. And we recognize that. And here's the thing, right? This is a safe environment, and we want to make sure that we're respectful with everyone that we get an opportunity to interact with. So I just kind of want to put that in there just to keep that in mind as you share with each other. Have fun in the break rooms. We encourage you to just kind of go in and share whatever it is that's on your mind and share freely. And we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So Thanks again for being here. And again, you can drop any additional comments or questions in the chat. We appreciate all of those that have done so.
Yeah, and I know some of you are talkers. I know you're talkers.
Yeah.
So we got 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
so use that 5 minutes wisely.
Yeah, and he did say 2 questions, but this is the first question for the first breakout. We'll do it again. Thanks, Liz. Welcome back. Welcome back.
All right. So I know for a fact that we will not get in detail to everyone. So we'd love for you to share what you discussed in the chat. So, we should have said, hey, you should get like a
spokesperson,
a voluntold person to capture your thoughts. But please, you all can work it out however y'all work it out there. But we love you to put your thoughts in the chat. But anybody like to kind of share what you talked about in terms of how you determine if you should say anything?
I think Stanley should be our spokesperson since he got cut off.
Love it. Stanley is an awesome spokesperson, really. I would pay him, but I can't afford him. So
that's good.
We had a good mix of people in our group, and I think we kind of all agreed that it's important to speak up, because if you don't, you're it's kind of like if you're either in support of something or you're not. And I think it's important. I think our group agreed that it's important to speak out, and everybody kind of was alluding to the concerns of speaking out. More so, what could come back your way? Is it shade? Is it opportunity to disagree? And how do you reconcile that difference right there? And what I was going to add to the conversation, literally as we were getting cut off, is I think in the context of leadership and leadership training, understanding that the two things that are probably most important as leaders is how we communicate and our degree of preparation, or how much information we have on any given topic, because then it becomes, it becomes our gifts to be able to be optimistic and reconcile people there on the spot and make sure that there's a positive ending to the conversation or exchange of ideas right then and there, because you've chosen to speak up, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, does anybody else have anything that you all want to share from what you discussed?
Sabrina, you should.
I just said that we are all human beings, first of all, and that if we don't say anything, we talked about the silence as well. But for me, the saying is, I am my brother's keeper. So if I don't say anything, we're all in the struggle together. If I don't help my brother, if I don't help my sister, who's going to do that? I mean, we all, if one hurts, we all hurt. And so that's my take on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna thank you, Sabrina. I think, really taking what you said, what Stan said, I'll offer up a couple of these, and these are not. I can't tell you that what you see here is all evidence-based. I can't tell you you're going to go to someone's model and see these. Okay, but the first one I think is critical. You really need to figure that out as you're determining where you stand on certain issues. And you need to figure that out, not necessarily because you, in a leadership role, are going to put out something about what you stand for, but you kind of need to know, because then you need to figure out what it is your people are saying. What are they feeling? What is their experience? A lot of times people go, they may feel even uncomfortable about what, about what they believe they should do, or what people maybe are telling them they should do, and they feel uncomfortable. And so they do nothing most often. A lot of times people, they freeze or they fight or whatever. But you got to kind of understand what the sentiment is in your culture. What have you built? What are your values, and what values is that culture living? You got to consider those things. A lot of times people jump straight to cost benefit. What's it going to cost me if I say something? But I think, that is a very, that's the personal and organizational decision. But I'll say that oftentimes there is a cost for silence, because, you're saying something, whether you're saying something or not. So that's something to consider. And I said I was going to put you all back in breakouts, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we've had opportunities, Mike said, we've had a lot of phone calls and opportunities to speak over the last several days, and we really emphasize how important it is to just start the conversation. I think, Barry, you mentioned that as well. I mean, it is an entry into having a necessary conversation. The only way that we can really learn more about each other is when we truly share, and not just in a superficial way, but sometimes it requires that you go a little bit deeper, especially with the people that you believe you're the closest to. We find ourselves right now wanting to hear and be heard. And unfortunately, a lot of people are trying to do that, accomplish that across social media. And one recommendation that we always have is that you monitor your intake of social media and just the kind of overall general sentiment that people tend to throw out there, because it is a platform. And some people, unfortunately, take advantage of the platform to just, yes, express themselves. There's free speech, but to do it in a way that's hurtful and not helpful. And so you really have to consider how much news you're consuming and how much social media you're consuming. And while you need to be informed, try not to be consumed.
Yeah. My general rule of thumb with social media, particularly if you're dealing with things that may get a little touchy, is to not try to battle on social media. Really think about what you put out there. Be thoughtful, put it out there. Generally, I'll give myself one response. If there's somebody that comes in sideways, I give myself one response, maybe. But you can't do the back and forth, and you can't fight on multiple fronts. Or you can, but it'll burn you out, and you can't win because there's an infinite number of ideas and people to continue to berate you, right? And so I'm trying to help train my daughter on that very thing as we speak, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to have difficult conversations, you can't just jump in and just start talking, right? Because there's levels to this thing, and there's some things that are necessary before you can really have the challenging conversations. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's necessary before you can get into the really difficult things?
Well, I'll jump in really quickly.
Yeah, Denise.
And Waylon, most people on the call have probably figured out that Waylon and I work together. And one of the things that I recommend is we both read the book Crucial Conversations. And one of the key takeaways of the book Crucial Conversations is starting with heart. And, you have to be at a place where you can keep your emotions in check so that you can genuinely listen and, and really try to engage in a productive conversation and not make assumptions and, create but by talking and having those crucial conversations, oftentimes if you don't, you're creating villain stories or victim stories. Again, these are all from the book, and, it's so important to have the conversations, but you have to be in that right frame of mind. Otherwise it can just, turn into a dumpster fire very quickly. They'll stop.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Denise.
Yes.
One thing that I've learned after being married for 24 years is not just complaining, but having a list of tangible solutions on call. And I know just want to emote and some want to problem solve. But the one thing that I found, if we're just talking about this George Floyd thing, which I think it's a bigger thing than that. Global warming, are we talking about the coronavirus? What are we talking about? I think that when you put if you were to put a microphone in a protester's mouth and say, all right, what do you want? Most people have been saying, we just need it to be fair. We need everybody to get along. That helps nothing.
Yeah.
So I think when we speak up, we should, I think the first point and the last point on your previous screen, what do you stand for? And what are you going to say? Mm-hmm. Do you have tangible solutions that are worthy of a discussion that can end in a higher ground? Or are we just bouncing emotions around, which gets us nowhere?
Yeah, but it burns a lot of energy, what it does ultimately. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Anything else? What do you have to have before you can get into this thing? Anything?
I think you have to get comfortable with discomfort. You just got to be ready to be comfortable with discomfort, and you've got to get curious, because if all you do is come up and state where you are, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get any, it's not a conversation. It's just bleh. It's just a bunch of people blehing out whatever it is they think and feel. And so it requires courage to ask those questions. So tell me more about that. Not explain yourself, not justify yourself, because I think a lot of times we get into that trap of thinking, we ask a question and then people feel defensive and like they have to justify themselves, and that's not what it is. I want to understand. Yeah. So tell me where that comes from.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz.
I think also you have to be prepared or know. You have to have knowledge of what's going on, and you have to be open-minded that everybody's not going to agree. So I think, to piggyback off of what you were saying earlier about going back and forth on Facebook, you have to be open-minded that, it's going to be some disagreement. Everybody's not going to agree on everything. And you have to know what you're talking about. You know, you have to know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I was gonna say you have to, you got to know what you're talking about. You got to know how you feel. You have to be honest about how you feel. These here, I believe, before you even get down the road, these right here are prerequisites. And if you don't have them, if you're going to try to engage any group of people in any type of a tough conversation, then you have to create them. And so trust, authenticity, connection, you could argue about the order of those. And I put connection in there versus relationship for a reason, because if you're the CEO of a large company, you may not have relationships with individuals, but if you built ways to have connection, town hall, emails, checking in, walking around, if you got connection, then you have the ability to build from there. But all these here, you require something special. And if you don't have it, then you need to, to create it by either bringing, people together who do have that connection, or there are ways actually to build connection and trust really rapidly among strangers.
Yeah, and even virtually, a lot of people have been concerned about being socially distanced, and what impact that will have on their connection. And we have evidence that really supports that even virtual connection is connection and genuine connection. And so it is important to stay connected and stay engaged in ways that really create the foundation and foster the environment to have those conversations, kind of like what Denise was talking about. When we talk about creating the space, some of these things, before we put you in the break rooms, I said, there may be an opportunity for strong emotions to be, evoked. Certainly as we watch the news and we consume even what our neighbors and friends are saying, it does, cause us to tap into emotions. I mean, we respond to their emotions and we're responding to our own. It is important to set the rules, right? Because respectful dialogue is really the only way that you can move forward. As soon as someone loses it or loses their stuff or goes off, there can be the tendency to respond in kind. And then all you have is a shouting match where, as you guys have all said, you're just exchanging your emotions. It gets louder and it gets louder, but it doesn't move us forward. And then don't rush it. And so, I'll go from don't rush it to the next one, plan for multiple opportunities to dialogue. This is not a one and done. This is not, okay, let's have a town hall and then we've checked our box and we don't have to do it again until the next event or something occurs. You start the conversation and then have plans to follow it up with more dialogue and more interaction. That's critical. And then finally, agreement is not the goal. We may not all agree. Just like we saw in that video at the very beginning. We may not all agree, we may not even like each other, but we're here for a common purpose. And identifying what that common purpose and that common goal is an absolute must. And so as you look forward to how you will create the space, foster these relationships and start conversations, we just wanted to give you a few ways to do that and maybe begin that journey. We are available as resources. If there's any way that we can help you, walk alongside you, or share some things that might help you in what you're doing, feel free to reach out to us. We mentioned a number of different platforms. You mentioned Unity. You can find information about that Unity event, see some of the past events, comments, pictures, and other things at Unity 706, at Unity 706 on Facebook. James was also there, so he could share some things. If you know James Holmes, he'd be happy to tell you about it. We shared some thoughts on Monday at the Marriage Shop. That's also on Facebook. And we talked about it. And then certainly, we'll put up our contact information, but we're here every week on Thursdays at 11:30, and we invite you to join us and rejoin us for a different conversation.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. if you have any questions, because we're at our time and we try to respect that. But if you want to stick on, if you have any questions, we'll be around here for a few minutes and we'll just kind of stick on. But it's really great to see you. You know, miss you, Stan. But yeah, so great to see you all, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon. All right, thanks.
And Mike, I just want to say thank you for bringing this up. I think this is something, it's a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of us to discuss these things, and I really appreciate you. I mean, that's not an easy topic, and I applaud your bringing it up on today's call. It was great. So
hey, thank you, James. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. And before we end the Zoom call, I just also wanted to say thank you guys so much for having these. I haven't been able to join everyone, but every single one that you posted, but these have been so, as you know, as we first dealt with COVID-19 and now the new concerns across our country, it's just been helpful to have the resource to gather and listen and hear and, you know, and try to find ways to cope and ways to, you know, make a difference and things like that. So thank you guys for making these available and sharing your time, talent, and treasure with all of us.
Thanks, certainly. Thank you, Denise. Really appreciate that.
here, guys, see you.
And this is thanks to both of you. And, you know, I think you guys are on the right track, at least to taking a look at problems. I think it's very uncomfortable to talk about some of these issues, but, you know, I'm a Lean Six Sigma type guy. And you really, at some point, bring a lot of clarity and look at what is the real problem here. And I applaud you guys because definitely you communicate very well, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Abe. Appreciate you, sir.